Welcome to the Rise of Cryptocurrencies show. Today I welcome Karolina Mazrentovich, an IBM distinguished engineer. She's leading and coordinating strategic initiatives on mobile, new digital, and social analytics. This sector gets more creative and ever more interesting by the second, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with a super smart person about the broad positive effects of blockchain technology on our lives. Karolina, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm doing well myself. You're by far a world-class expert on this technology. The financial media focuses on Bitcoin and its wild price swings, not on blockchain technology itself. Similarly, most investors are only interested in trading Bitcoin, but some of the biggest trends and the biggest gains will come from blockchain itself. People miss out on how important blockchain revolution really is. You're a super talented and pretty much a genius engineer, but for most people like me, we want concepts simplified so we can assess how much demand the market will have for them as investors. Can you describe blockchain for investors to understand? Imagine you're explaining it to Forrest Gump.
Thank you. Yes, so you made great distinction between Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency. It's one of the meaning, and the software for blockchain, for public blockchain, and the blockchain itself as a let's part of the science within the information technology. And I think from the most of the people, average people, we heard a lot about Bitcoin, especially because the price is increasing or changing the value. So for some of the people, it's fascinating, but really not a lot of the people understand what is really behind, how the concept works, and where else we can apply the technology, the blockchain itself, on top of the cryptocurrencies. So what is blockchain? Blockchain in general is a shared, distributed network solution, which is in very simple words, is just the ledger, immutable ledger, which records the history of the transaction. But because it is shared, so there is no one entity which owns the ledger. It's like a database with the history of the transactions, but where the same copy is put across many participants in the same network. So usually when I talk about the blockchain solution, I call them network. One solution is the network, not like traditional IT systems.
Karolina, in terms of the origins of blockchain, it looks like it dates back to the 70s or 60s. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the blockchain as a concept, or Bitcoin, was created in late 2008 and then implemented at the beginning of 2009. But most of the components which were gathered all together in one concept, all of them, they were invented years ago. Just, first of all, nobody else before gathered them together. And also the adoption of the internet, make all of them possible to work. So, for example, some of the cryptographic algorithms, they were invented in the late 60s. So really, late years ago. And the distributed systems, they are in market for many years. But nobody really, thought about the distribution of the systems, including the trust distribution across the external participants to that level.
Today, it looks like most people are calling these projects cryptocurrencies, but truly this name is misleading because only a small part of them aim to replace our fiat currencies. For the majority of them, the business plan is to advance thousands of different problems in trade, commerce, supply chain, quality control, the list goes on and on. What excites you personally about the possibilities for improvements in our economies globally, and can you give us some specific examples?
Yeah, so there are really few things which really excites me. You are very, correct about this, about the blockchain. So first of all, this technology makes digital economy more inclusive. It somehow gives us, the people, the communities, the rights back. So then we can decide more. And one example for this is, for example, the e-voting platform built in Poland by Polish Securities Depository for e-voting, so voting for retail investors. So they don't need to come for the annual general shareholders meeting. They can use the platform to vote. And it's like usually, if you have like 5 shares or 1 share or 10 shares, you don't feel like co-owner of the company because you are not one of those major investors. But
Sure.
really, you are one of the co-owners.
Sure.
And right now, thanks to the platform based on blockchain, you can vote. All your votes are, transparent, immutable. And even, all those retail investors, we can imagine that they can gather together and maybe even, vote against some major investors for the specific, company. It's possible. So I think that inclusivity is one of the potential from the blockchain. We can build distributed platform, for many use cases and give people access and power to execute their rights. And then it is on us, like on those investors, to really use these rights, to participate. So the technology also somehow gives us, the sense of the community. We can gather, and it is especially
Sure.
especially true for the public blockchain, peer-to-peer systems. Then we, as a participant of the network, each of us, we can decide. So this is one of the things which really excites me. And then, I'm engineer, I'm technologist. So, looking at the machine and machine communication, we know that we need more automation in this space. And thanks to blockchain, we can make machine to machine to make the transaction and provide the trust between them. Trust, accountability, and transparency. So I think that thanks to the blockchain, when the technology will become more and more mature, and we will, reach better performance outcomes, will be ready to support the global, nationwide, or from some industry-wide platforms where machine will communicate. It will be true for the industry 4.0, for the energy and utilities, for example, and any other, heavy industry, automotive sector.
Carolina, can you explain how many companies are looking into blockchain technology for their respective industries? We know that on an individual basis, people are rushing to open exchange accounts right now and use tokens for speculation purposes mostly. But can you share how this mass adoption behaves on a corporate level? The internet came into our lives in 1993, and by 2005, most modern families had access to it, and we use it daily. Is blockchain going to be going on the same route?
So first of all, we need to, understand what really impact the adoption of the blockchain solution. And I think that there are a few aspects which are important. One of them is the maturity of the blockchain software. So we know what are the limitation of the Bitcoin blockchain and the, proof of work algorithm, which is really energy inefficient. And it is the biggest challenge,
Meaning
from the mass adoption.
Meaning that it consumes a lot of electricity?
Yeah, for example. Yeah. So from the economic perspective, it's really one of the obstacles, let's say. But then on the other hand, we see the growing, initiative across this community, like for example, the Hyperledger led by Linux Foundation, where you have many blockchain software frameworks, Hyperledger Fabric, Sawtooth Lake, Borrow, Iroha, and they are developed, managed, and governed by the open source community, which is, I think, the best option to increase the blockchain adoption, because all of us then we have the transparency, what is inside, what is the roadmap, and every one of us in terms of the IT people, developers, can participate. It's open for everybody. Mm-hmm. You just need to be smart enough to create the valuable content there, to code the valuable content there. So I think that those initiatives like Hyperledger, they will increase the business enterprise adoption within the specific industries and across industries. And also, the private blockchain, because they use different algorithms for the consensus, we can achieve much better performance outcomes. So, it's like 100 of transactions per second or 1,000 of transactions per second, which seems to be really good from the business perspective, business requirements. So performance shouldn't be a stopper in those, business implementation. And, where we are right now. So the first use cases we've seen in the financial services, because Bitcoin arrived as a disruption for the payments and for the banking. So the banks and the other financial institutions, they started first look what is really, what is this technology about. But right now we can see that the many public administration governments, they experiment with the blockchain. Even some of the governments, they have the blockchain strategy. And we can see more and more use cases for the supply chain, energy and utilities, logistics, the different assets, life cycle management, like for example, the Everledger for the diamonds. Great example for the global solution with the blockchain solution, with the global register of the all diamonds around the world.
It's very, very interesting.
But I think that most of the solutions, or the enterprises, the companies, and the governments, they experimented during the last 2 years, and I really expect that right now it's time for the production implementation. So I let many of those prototypes, proof of concepts project with our clients, IBM clients, and we have right now the proof that the technology is mature enough, that the performance is not an issue, that that the software can support different infrastructure deployment models. So I think it's really time for the business decision makers to make these bold moves and start to transform the business processes, the value chains, the end-to-end cross industries, flow of the assets or exchange of the assets. Carolina, to make it,
Lastly, will third world countries be able to revolutionize their corrupt governments and their poor social standards because of blockchain, thanks to blockchain basically? Are the tools in place today to make radical advancements in these countries?
I think, from looking at the trends, if you will look at the, mobile phones distribution in Africa, or some, emerging markets in Asia, South America, the mobile phone usage is really quite big, comparing to the even, bigger than the access to the electricity, or comparing to the access to the clean water. And I think this is one of the ways, those regions really, do bigger jumps in terms of the, digitalization. So, maybe they don't have really good roads, but most of them, they use mobile phones, and through the mobile phones, they can have access to the internet, and which makes, those blockchain-based solution more available for them. So there are many global initiatives, even run by World Economic Forum, for example, which try to promote blockchain as a technology which can help fight with or can help increase the financial inclusion. Like, financing based on microfinancing based on blockchain, this type of the initiative for the emerging regions. Technology, mostly based on the open source, distributed by definition, requires really, lower investment to have the platforms like nationwide or region-wide or industry-wide. So it's really easier to provide some digital services and capabilities to the people, even the, ID based on blockchain for those people who cannot confirm their ID in any, analog way, let's say.
Carolina, thanks for taking the time to be on the show today. I know that you will be helping to advance the world doing what you're doing, and I'll definitely touch base with you and see what's on your plate from time to time. Thanks.
I think, yes, and this is one of the trends, like nobody could stop. And it's, the governments rather need to embrace this. Because like with blockchain, the transparency level, which is provided thanks to technology, if applied, for example, to the public procurement processes, it's really amazing. You cannot, change anything in the ledger. So you cannot update the information. You cannot doubt or question something. But the question is, from my side, it's the governments, all the governments, because not all of them are corrupted, will be ready to this level of the transparency. But from the community perspective, people perspective, I think that the last 10 years, looking at all the disruptions, all the crowdfunding platform, peer-to-peer platforms, they are great examples that nobody could stop the human creativity. And really our need for the interaction, for the community, and even for something bigger than just making money.